Brian Steele, this is the next generation, today's generation, the new era's Johnny Cochran. I mean, the man done fought, the man done been incarcerated behind Young Thug, was brought up under what court contempt. Listen, I ain't snitching. I ain't telling the judge where I got this information. Well, if you don't, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. Okay, cool. You're gonna hold me in contempt, put me in the same cell as my client, Young Thug, so we can continue to go over the case. After the video as well, we're gonna go over the stipulations. There's a lot of release conditions that he still must meet so that he doesn't bring his ass back into jail or violate his probation. Let's get into Brian Steele's closeout and then him addressing the press and media right outside of the courthouse.
Howdy. Do y'all know which one of you wants to do most of the talking? Mr. Steele. Well, if you stand like kind of in front of the mic stand, if you don't mind. And then are all of my gentlemen photographers ready?
He got a little smile on his face.
You'll look at me or whoever asks you a question. We edited for the most part. I don't think anyone's live.
I think we're taking it live.
Okay, Tyler's taking it live in the back. Okay. The first question's the easiest. Just say your name so we can get mic levels real quick.
I'm Brian Steele, Brian Steel.
And I'm Keith Adams, Keithadams.
And talk us through the decision to do a plea and
That must be media outside, man. They got the helicopters out, and this all fell on Halloween. That's crazy.
just how today ended up going and transpiring.
He's got to drop like a mixtape.
Well,
on
this was
Halloween or something
excruciating
now.
because
Or on
hopefully, in our collective opinion, Jeffrey would have been found not guilty of everything. So this is very painful. But that's another 3 months or so in custody. And he wants to go home to his family. And negotiations totally broke down with the district attorney's office. Horribly broke down. And at that point, we believe that justice would be found with the honorable court. And Jeffrey just wanted to go home. How agonizing it is to know that we've spent a year trying a case where the prosecutors have put on lies, knowing lies, hiding evidence is insane in 2024 in the United States of America. And the only reason that this got revealed is because of you people. You people brought the truth to the community because nobody knows this. This is not the only courtroom it's happening in. And I just want to thank all of you. I especially want to thank Jeffrey for letting me represent him. I think he's a wonderful person who does wonderful things and will continue to do things even greater. I cannot express to you how Shaquille Kokomo, how Trisha Renard, how Haley, how my wife Colette, how Bram, how countless people, but especially Miss Courtney Edwards, has worked without sleep for 3 years representing Jeffrey and helping him. I will never be able to stand with anyone more ethical, honest, hardworking, insightful, intelligent, and kind than the Honorable Keith Adams. The gentleman to my left is the best lawyer in the country.
Mr. Steele, do you think prosecutors negotiated?
He's giving another classic round even after.
Let me answer that. The short answer is no. This is a case that possibly could have been resolved if folks were reasonable.
They still shooting shots.
But we did not believe that we could enter into good faith negotiations with people who wanted a case resolved in a manner simply to save face. And Jeffrey Williams was not going to
pause it there. Yo, they're basically saying that even the negotiations and from the prosecution side, like they are really emphasizing the lying that they were doing on them. And they're still attacking the unjust foundations and some of the claims and the lies and the proceedings from the state, even in this what many people are calling a win and a victory, right? This is chalked as a victory for Young Thug. People are going crazy over the 15 years probation and all the stipulations tied into that. We'll discuss some of that in a second, but this is a win. People, like, chill out. Would you rather be imprisoned? No, right? If you had to choose. So, but they're still shooting shots, and that lays a lot of groundwork for future cases that they may have to try in this county or in this court. That lays groundwork, and it also shows, like, going forward, it's not just about me figuring out how to get my client a reduced amount of time or getting them off. My war isn't just with the case or the allegations. My war is also with the state. It's also with the prosecution. If I feel that you lied, if I feel like you came in here with unjust information, false claims, I'm at you before, during it. I mean, hell, they even got a judge about it there. And to take this type of stance after the fact, I think is very, very strong from them, and to a degree responsible. They're not letting up. It's like, people, yes, everybody's coming out and stepping outside of these steps saying, woo, free, we did it. But do not lose sight of why we got here in the first place. Do not lose sight that Jeffrey Williams still had to sit there for 2+ years in jail. Do not lose sight that this still could have gone the other way. We're not letting that off the hook. That is a strong stance that he'll take after such a victory.
Say things that they wrote for him, that they wanted him to say, that was their theory when it wasn't true. And so, good faith, no. I don't believe we would ever really negotiate in good faith. And you've been here the past year that this case has been on trial. You've seen the numerous motions for mistrial. You've seen the behavior of the state. You've seen the dishonesty. You've seen everything being hidden. You've seen things come out in court in front of you. And so you know what kind of prosecution we were dealing with. And that's okay. You know, Mr. Steele and I have fought through this the past 2.5 years. And as he said, we ultimately decided we were going to put our faith in the court as opposed to the folks on the other side of the aisle.
AKA a new judge.
The best thing out of all of this is that Jeffrey Williams, in a very short period of time, will be home. And that's all we've wanted from May 9th, when they went and picked him up and have held him in jail without a bond for the past 2.5 years. He'll be home shortly.
Brian, this either one of you can answer. I have 2 questions for you. First off, you go into a blind plea, you don't know, right? There's nothing for sure. What was your emotion?
Blind plea.
Went into that. I would imagine the conversation. You kind of take us.
They played their chess game, man.
Out to court, what the conversations were back and forth. Obviously, I know there's.
They played their pieces on the board.
It's a big decision.
Well, I didn't want to give up the jury trial, but that was a decision made, and once that decision was made, we were just thankful that there are people like the Honorable Judge Whitaker who understands what a trial is like and what it should be like. And I cannot thank the Honorable Court for being here and coming in. She is not
still shooting shots. Judge Whitaker, that's the second judge. That's the new judge. That was the final judge. That was the one that handed down her sentencing and decisions last night after the negotiations or the plea deal was on the table and was accepted by Young Thug's side. He still said a judge that understands what this is supposed to be like. He's still shooting shots at the last judge. But rightfully so. I mean, they're pretty much trying to make a stance and make bold public statements that it shouldn't have taken this long. We shouldn't have gotten to this point. There's things that should have never been allowed in this court process. And without saying his name, I'm blaming the last judge. And maybe we still have to look at that instead of just saying like, oh, it's all the witnesses, it's Woody, it's all the theatrics, it's the prosecution not being prepared at times. And we see all these things and we blame that for leading us towards the longest trial in Georgia state history, they're saying, right? Or is it criminal trial in Georgia state history? How do you get there? He's not just saying because of the gravity and the weight of the trial itself or the charges itself or the case itself. He's pretty much blaming the judge for it, the previous judge that they got out of there. Woo! Some people is getting some major wins from this. You see that when this conference right here started, and when they came out and addressed the media, what's one of the first things that they do? They both came out and stated their names, and they even spelled them. By the way, if you don't know me, shout out to everybody that's joined the chat. This is your boy ARP, and you have landed here on the Sorry It's True podcast. That type of shit. Like, if you don't know me, here's still my name and what I represent. Because once again, I think that this is the new era Johnny Cochran as far as winning a situation like this. A lot of people didn't think it was going to go this way. A lot of people. So he comes out, takes that position, still shooting shots. There's a lot of wins here, but who loses? The state and the prosecution. I think their careers are hurt badly. The previous judge, I mean, these guys are still going to be employed, right? But your reputation and going down the line, oh, it is what it is. Do right and do your job correctly.
Not our first judge, but she's the first time we received justice.
Mr. Adams, this is your second high-profile RICO case here in Fulton County. Do you think that maybe the prosecutor's office is abusing that statute? And what are your opinions of RICO generally?
I have, for the 30 some odd years that I practiced law, always believed that if you, as a prosecutor, think that someone has committed a crime, you charge them with the crime, you put it in front of a jury, and then you do it fairly and let the chips fall where they may. The courtroom is not the place to get adventurous, to get inventive, to think, well, we don't have evidence on him for any of these incidents, but maybe, if just maybe, we tie him up in a RICO and put him with people who may have committed crimes, we can get him that way. That's an abuse. And so, yes, for some strange reason,
I love hearing that said publicly by a lawyer, because I think all of us ghetto lawyers around the internet, you know what we do? We have like this quiver and this shake and this fear of hearing the word RICO, right? It's almost like when you hear a Fed indictment, everybody says their conviction rate is so high, the Feds got you, it's a wrap, it's a wrap, it's a wrap. No, the prosecution, the Feds, the state, whoever's putting their evidence on the table, their case on the table, they still have a job to do, right? There's been people that beat the Feds before, right? Okay, they have a high conviction rate. I get it. But you still got to go through this court process and fight your fight. And if you hire the best attorneys of the best, you still have hope. And we hear RICO and everybody runs for fear and shakes. And I get it. I would too. If somebody said, yo, AR, you got a RICO coming your way, I'm like, what? Oh, shit. Yep. Okay. Who's not extraditing? I get it. But the way that they're explaining that the RICO was abused by the state and the prosecution here, it's like just a good attorney could break down all of this shit and say, this is not the place to be adventurous. This is not the place to say, okay, we got him. We tied him up. He's in custody. All right, he's not getting bond. He's sitting in jail. Now let's go put our case together. And you know that happens all the fucking time. But they're exposing that here. You tied him up in a RICO and thought that because you had all these people. When we heard the list of how many witnesses they were going to bring, remember, we was like, yo, we're going to be here for another 2-3 years. All these major platforms. I saw Vlad saying that. You saw, I think, Academic. You had so many big podcasters and platforms and media outlets. And they wasn't wrong for the opinion. But everybody was under the impression like, yeah, we will still be here in 2025. We might still be here in 2026. They got hundreds of witnesses, they're saying, and whatnot. Everybody expected that. Everybody expected that. And then you start going through all of this and you're like, okay, you're putting all these new people and trying to mix in all this stuff because you're creating your case on the fly. And that's why the second judge was tearing down the prosecution, saying that you're not prepared. You're coming to court in ways that is not traditional. You can't just try to piece this together now. Evidence is evidence. The charges are the charges. And I can clearly see when you're reaching. I can clearly see when you're unprepared. I can clearly see you putting this puzzle together day by day in front of us. And we've already been here for 2 fucking years. That's when the judge walked out and said, yo, I need to get up out of here for a second. I need a break. Right? Yo. And them standing on that here publicly is a very, very important message to continue to put out. Crazy, man.
The Fulton County DA's office seems to be in love with RICO. And My honest opinion
Shots.
is that they're in love with it because it makes it easier for them to try and convict people that they otherwise could not convict. And that's what was happening here. We're fighting a mountain, reams of evidence, most of which didn't have anything to do with us. And so is it an abuse? I think it is. There are better ways to, and I used to be a prosecutor, right? And I can tell you that there are better ways to prosecute cases than the way this case was prosecuted.
Talk your shit, Keith. Ooh, Keith just got a round off.
It sounds like from what you guys decided in court, I mean, it's still pretty stringent. There's a lot of different details, but what was the state asking for that you guys rejected?
I'm not going to get into plea negotiations because they are privileged under statute, but it was outrageous. They would let him out of custody, but they would have a tether around him so tight that it's unconscionable.
Revolving
How
door.
are y'all feeling about what the sentencing is, especially with not being able to be in Metro Atlanta except for specific parameters? And how is Mr. Williams feeling about that decision?
You know, we're okay with the sentence. There comes a time in any case, if a person is sentenced, that we're out of the courtroom, and now what happens to that person is entirely up to them. Jeffrey Williams is a fantastically talented man. He is a great person. He's become a great friend over the course of the last couple of years. And he has the ability, the incentive to go forth and do everything he needs to do to put this behind him. And we're confident that he will. One of the questions you asked a little earlier was, what was that feeling like stepping into a courtroom to do what's called a blind plea, not knowing what's going to happen? You know, it's a scary feeling for all involved. There's probably no feeling quite like that other than sitting in a courtroom waiting for a jury to come out and tell you what your fate is. But we walked in there knowing that we were in front of a fair tribunal and being comfortable that the right thing was going to happen, and the right thing did.
What do you think about your client? Just
gotta play your chessboard out.
Obviously, as part of the agreement, he's going to be participating in the community, doing events, things like that. Obviously, he has a huge reach for what he does for a living.
I've known Jeffrey Williams. I've defended him for over a decade. I have been with him where we go to young children, children in need, children who are going down the wrong way. And he tells exactly what he's going to continue to say. He tells everybody, this is not a good life. We have to stop the generational disaster that is plaguing the community. And although right now I'm successful, I'm a product, but every one of you can get out. And he always stresses education. Jeffrey Williams is a great person, a great role model, and he will do even better now, hopefully, if you allow him and his words to get out. As far as how Jeffrey's feeling now, he knows my feelings, which I'm not going to reveal for attorney-client privilege, but this is not the same as the not guilty verdict. That should have been rang. But nobody here wakes up every day on a concrete floor that they're calling his bed, gets up at 4:15, gets shackled at his feet, his waist, and his hands, comes to the Fulton County Courthouse to be on concrete, eating out of a bag. Doritos is his meal of choice. And then coming to a courtroom and sit there with a leg chain on him every single day and hear lie after lie. So for Jeffrey, go home today and not have another 90 days or 120 days of it, he is very happy, thankful to the honorable court. So,
oh man, it's yo, his lawyers are just, they are kicking ass. Yo, his lawyers are killing, B. No. Yeah, he's happy, he's free that he's going home. But just imagine you come up there and they say, yo, how's Doug feeling? How's Jeffrey feeling? Oh, he's happy. You know what I'm saying? He's free. If you just say that, you know, like the interpretations, the tones, the different ways that people can perceive that, I don't know. You just can't leave it there. And for him to just still take that opportunity to remind people, for the last 2 years, the man has slept on concrete. The man still had to come back and forth to court 4:15 in the morning with his feet still in shackles and sit there quiet. We didn't get to hear Thug's voice until last night. For 2+ years, just sit there quiet as you're listening to people lie on snitches taking the stand, telling on you, saying that, oh, I only said this so I can get off of my shit. Right? And you sitting there, you listening, just think y'all want to the prosecution talking shit about you. They want you dead and in jail, buried under, and you just sitting there quiet. You can't say nothing but to whisper to your lawyers every once in a while. 2 years of that, and then not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if you're going to have to spend the rest of your life in jail. Am I going to hit a mistrial? Are they going to try this again? What's going to happen? Am I running out of money? My family needs this. Daughter needs this. We're not losing sight of that. What they still did to this man is what Brian Steele is saying right here. Yes, we're comfortable with the sentencing. Yes, he's happy to go home now. But what he still had to endure. Damn.
So to answer your question, this was not what I wanted. I don't believe that it is just, but I believe that under these circumstances, it is justice for Jeffrey Williams, and he is delighted, as are we. I'm thankful.
Can I ask you, you were standing right next to him as he was addressing the judge, what seemed like a very sincere apology to her, or apology to the court and what happened, what has gone on. How did you feel standing next to him, knowing him for the last decade as a attorney for him, about what he was saying and what he was telling the judge?
Jeffrey Williams is being truthful. That is his heartfelt feelings. He feels so bad for the loss of life, and he feels bad that people are taking his music or his social postings and making it into violence. That is all promotion. That is not a symbol of go hurt somebody. So I hope I've answered your question directly, but how I felt, I've heard that from Jeffrey over and over again.
You called out a lot of challenges in this trial based on the prosecution's points. Do you have any
Heck
message
is
to
playing music in the
co-counsel
background
that
over
for now
there.
is still on trial, or what's left of this?
Oh my God, they are phenomenal lawyers, and I'm confident if you keep going, which I assume you will see some great lawyering. They don't need my help.
And the truth is, they've been there with us for the past 2.5 years. They're aware of what they're up against. They are totally capable of handling it. And I presume we'll step in from time to time because, in this fight in the past 2.5 years, we've been together. So we needed something, they've been there to assist. And if they need something, we're happy to step right back in and assist. But they're great lawyers. Max Shard, Doug Weinstein, those gentlemen are in great hands. They'll be fine.
I will say this. I think it is wrong, and it needs to be fixed.
Hopefully.
That an innocent man is arrested on May 9th of 2022, is denied bond, and has to plead guilty and nolo to get freedom after 2.5 years in custody. That should not happen. Nobody should be on trial. Jurors, think about what they're going through. Nobody should be on trial like this. And if Mr. Williams didn't have the resources, this never happens well for anybody. So I think
that is a painful statement to hear, B. 2.5 years, no bond. And think about how the court carries it when you enter a guilty plea and when the judge starts to then reveal their sentence. You are accepting and taking a plea of guilt to XYZ, right? They start to speak to you as if you're guilty because that's what you negotiate, that's what you agreed upon, that's what you signed. Look at what Brian Steele just said, man. He said 2.5 years ago, arrested, no bond, no bond. And then feeling like basically you're forced to admit or accept guilt for things that you still believe you are innocent for just to get your freedom back. And if you did not have the resources, this would have gone a different way for him and probably does for many other people. We say all the time the difference between a paid lawyer versus a court-appointed lawyer. Big difference. Young Thug obviously has a lot of money. Young Thug obviously has a lot of support. Lil Baby even rapped that, sent the mill over for Young Thug's defenses or court fees. Got a lot of friends. I would assume Baby, Lil Baby, maybe Gunna, or got all these big and even people behind the scenes that you probably don't even know. Somebody like maybe Drake, or people sending money if he needs it. He probably still got his own catalog out there and his own, businesses that's still earning money. The support system around people watching Young Thug go through this with his head high. Once again, if you didn't have those resources, and I bet you anybody that gave him some money, if it was in the form of a loan, I bet you that money coming back ASAP. Young Thug just seems too stand up, B. Too stand up.
I think it's an abuse to answer the AJC's question. I think it's an abuse of the statute of RICO to do this to people.
Is it fair to say you don't believe justice was served today?
I believe that Mr. Williams is home, and I'm delighted. Justice would have been served on May 8th of 2020. Williams is home, and I'm delighted.
I believe justice was served today.
Peep his facial expression when they asked him, this was a great question from the media that was there. And you could actually get yourself in trouble a little bit, I think, based on your answer. Do you believe justice was served today? Look how Brian still has to look up in the air for a second, gather his thoughts in flight, and still give a perfect answer. And he uses going back to the early initial case instead of saying that, oh, today everything was just so perfect or it was wrong. He's still drawing back to the past and how we got here to begin with. It was a perfect answer because he almost trapped. This is the type of question where you could get yourself in trouble for.
I believe
Look at him.
that Mr. Williams is
Audit.
home, and I'm delighted. Justice would have been served on May 8th of 2022 if the grand jury no-billed his indictment. That would have been just. And it's wrong to be under investigation. He's been under investigation for 15 years. 15 years by task force of federal government and local government. Think about that. Think about your children doing that. And that's okay. If it's okay with you all, then we should really start moving to another country. I want to thank everybody so much for everything you do. I cannot thank you all, because without you guys, this just keeps rolling in injustice. It's got to end. The criminal justice system, the presumption of innocence, the Brady rules, the ethical rules, they have to survive. Otherwise, we all are victims of this. Anyone can sit in that seat next to Keith Adams. Thank you all so much.
And no one sees it unless you guys do what you do. But I tell you what, there is a whole world of people out there who have
He's like, oh no, I got to close out round.
The past 2.5 years, the past year that we've actually been in the courtroom trying the case, who are much more educated to how things work, and unfortunately, sometimes how things don't work. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
That was big. That was big. Okay, let's jump into this article's going around. I didn't see like the full bullet pointed list. I'm pretty sure it's out there somewhere, but let's pull up an article at least that has a majority of the outline of his release stipulations. Judge Whitaker decided on a total sentence of 40 years, with the first 5 in prison, commuted to the nearly 2.5 years Mr. Williams had already spent in jail. Commuted to. If he is not successful in completing 15 years of probation, the judge said he could be made to serve 20 additional years in custody. So be clear. All the interpretation at this point, and the way we all perceive this, right? Free man right now, that 2.5 was commuted into the 5 years for time served. So the time of incarceration is actually satisfied already. Okay, that's 5. Then you got 15 years of probation. 5 plus 15 is 20. Then you got 20 years backloaded on the back end. So 20 plus 20 is 40. Okay, that's where you get to the total number that we're hearing of 40. What that 20 years backloaded on the end means is now for the next 15 years during probation, if he violates probation, he could immediately be taken into custody and forced to serve 20 years. There is no I violated my probation by, like, let's say, not completing my community service, and that should only get me 30 days in jail. Or I was caught with dirty piss and violated a drug test, and that, and it's just weed, so I should only get 7 months in jail. No, regardless of what you did, you violate your probation and they nab you for that, 20 years. Now, of course, like we said on last night's stream, you still have your PO, and there's hopefully some relaxation over time. You earn it. It's 5 years, 6 years, 7 years into your probation, and you show up 20 minutes late to your check-in. And I'm exaggerating right now, but they don't go, oh no, we got you, because some of this stuff sometimes does feel like it's set up to create the revolving door. We think the revolving door at times is just a criminal that just refuses to learn. That is true. But there is also a revolving door due to probation stipulations that are very, very tough for people to meet. Like, imagine you have to check in a different state. Okay, niggas travel every day, B, but what if you miss your flight? What if your flight is delayed? Okay, maybe your PO should understand that. You know what I'm saying? What if you're allowed to smoke weed, but then your piss turned up as if you had some other type of drug in it? I think they said that that's just what happened to 6ix9ine. They said he was taking Adderall, right? Because these artists be trying to stay up and have that Adderall type of shit in their system so they could be in the studio all night and party all night and stay up and all that type of stuff. But when he got drug tested, it translated and read as if it was methamphetamine. Meth. Like, meth and crack is like matter of fact, meth is above crack, I think, as far as the effects on the body, right? So think about it. Like, something like that, you just never know what happens. And you want to try to earn some flexibility and a little bit of a pillow there with your PO and your probation terms. None of us are going to know how strict his next 15 years are or how much he's walking on thin ice. I think a lot of people would also turn around and say, listen, man, you lived a certain life, allegedly. You have this opportunity here. If you go live like a law-abiding citizen, you get away from people. You're not even allowed it in Atlanta, the metro area of Atlanta. Go move to Cali, do your music, stay away from certain people, collect your show money, stay with friends and family, and that's it. You should be able to live just like any other law-abiding citizen, right? Hope that's easy. Hope it is. But let's continue the rest of this article. Oh man. So yeah, that's the 40-year breakdown. Okay, so it's the 5, which was commuted from his 2.5 plus the 15, that's 20, and then 20 backloaded on the end if he violates his probation. So that's where the whole 40 number is coming from. She also ruled that Mr. Williams would be required to stay away from the metro Atlanta area for the first 10 years of his probation, barring certain exceptions. Take random drug tests, take anti-gang presentations to groups of children 4 times annually, and perform 100 hours of community service per year while on probation, and refrain from promoting gangs or being around known gang members, excluding his brother, Quintavious Greer, the rapper Unfunk, and Sergio Kitchens, known as Gunna, who is signed to Mr. Williams' label. Now, I think that there was more that we heard last night live on the stream. I think we heard, for example, $100,000 per year, or up to a certain amount of years that he needs to donate to like the chief's office for like a gun buyback program. What else did we hear on last night's live stream? They said stay away from known gang members. We heard something that was said to the degree of like even hand signs. Like, you ain't doing none of this. All that is dead. That's done. Don't you got slap tatted on his finger? I don't care. Like, don't do none of that shit. Right. I think the details of it in last night's live get way more thick and had us feeling like, damn, they just want this guy to turn left and bump into something, or turn right and bump into something and have his ass violated, and then have to serve that backloaded 20 years. That's the way it felt, right? What's your alternative, people? Your alternative, once again, is being imprisoned. Wait, I have another article in front of me right here. Whitaker ordered that Williams remain away from the metropolitan Atlanta area beginning 2 days following his release from custody. For the first 10 years of his probation, Williams is allowed to return to Atlanta area for weddings, funerals, graduations, but must leave within 48 hours of those events ending, according to Whitaker. He is required to return to the area 4 times a year. We saw that part. Williams must also perform 100 hours of community service. We saw that part. Williams would face a maximum of 120 years in prison if he was convicted on all charges. So that's, once again, that's the win. If convicted, you could have faced up to 120 years. Right? I don't know if some of those charges would have been running and concurrent or whatever the case may be. But your plea deal allows you to go home. There's nobody out here that should be complaining about his probation stipulations, considering what he was facing, what he was targeted for, and the way he was identified by the feds. You are the leader. You are the top boss. You are the John Gotti of this infamous YSL gang and crew that is terrorizing Atlanta and responsible for shootings, murders, drug deals, this infecting the youth. The judge even mentioned that last night. She was like, yeah, but your message, the way it affects the youth and everything. Like, if you are targeted with those type of accusations, claims, and charges, and you are able to go home with probation-based terms, stay away from known gang members. Check. So if you had all this gang beef with all these other gangs and whatnot in Atlanta or whoever, here's your pass. White flag is up. No more ego. No more who won. Y'all got it. I can't even beef with y'all anymore. Stay away from known gang members now on your side as well. You know what? A lot of them was possibly just hanger-ons anyway. A lot of them was going to get me in trouble sooner or later anyway. Right? I can't be around them no more. Now I got an excuse. Even if I still wanted to be around them, or if I really did want to possibly get away from some of these people, but damn, I'm staying so loyal. Here's your excuse. I'm not even allowed to be around you, dude. Sorry. That's a plus. Fuck that. I ain't sugarcoating that. That's a fucking plus. You know what I'm saying? Not allowed to be around the Atlanta metro area. That's a plus to me. You want to know why? Because the areas where you've done the most dirt are the most notorious, are the first areas to kill you. They will tell every known rapper that's beefing in the Chirac war to get the fuck out of Chirac, right? Okay, so the hottest spot for you, young thug, where you have the most shit going on, is the metro area of Atlanta. You can't be there anymore. Drug tested. Now, if he goes and stays in California in a place where weed is legal, am I allowed to smoke my weed? You know what I'm saying? Am I allowed to drink my little alcohol? Okay, you may not be able to do your syrup or any other thing of that milk, pills and Molly and whatnot. Okay. He said to the judge, maybe some of my mind is because I was high at times. He said that when he spoke in his speech yesterday. So if you could just have your little drink and your little weed every once in a while, okay, you're healthier. Let's keep going. What else? Community service, not a bad thing. He says that he does stuff like that anyway. The charitable donations, the 4 annual engagements, not a big deal. He's allowed to be around certain people like his brother and Gunna. Gunna's still signed to the label. I still want to hear more about that, and I still want to see more about that. I think a lot of people will be. I seen a meme that said it was like a let down meme of Lil Baby when he saw the the terms yesterday of can we still also work with Gunna, right? Some people are interpreting that as a cosign of Gunna. Everybody hold still. We don't know that. I think going either direction right now is just an opinion. If we see Young Thug stand next to him genuinely, making music with him genuinely, and we get that vibe, yeah, nobody's going to look at Gunna no kind of way because he has that umbrella of Young Thug over him. But if this statement of can we still be around Gunna is simply because Gunna's a big name. Gunna's one of the biggest artists out right now. Gunna's a big money earner, and Gunna is signed to me. Can I be around him? Huh? I ain't gonna hurt him. I'm damn sure make my money off of this bastard, though. You don't know if that's the position. So I want to wait. Everybody chill for a second. I want to wait on that. I want to wait on that. But we can continue to go down the line of his probation stipulations. And I'm not in those shoes, so I'm not gonna say like, oh, that shit is all easy, right? But there are certain things in there I feel like they're better for him as a person, as a man, as a successful musician, as a human being. They possibly will keep him safer. They possibly will keep him alive. Getting the fuck away from Atlanta and ex-gang members or gang members, that can help you survive, right? So I think there's things in his probation that is really good for him, right? So, man, congratulations once again to Young Thug. That was intense when we watched live last night. Brian Steele, as well as Keith Adams, their reputation is through the roof. Lil Durk might want to reach out to them right now. Who knows? But we'll stay close to some of the updates and the proceedings from Young Thug. Everybody keep me in the loop. And in the meantime, you know what it is.
Don't confuse silence with work ethic. I'm a boss, making decisions my first fetish. The verse cherished is perfect, that's a reverse blemish. I dropped it, connected the block, learn Tetris.
This is the Sorry True Podcast. Welcome to the house of. And shout out to the members.